Hey, what's up? My name is Paige, and thank you for clicking on this video. Today I wanted to talk about the two characters, Zuko and Azula, both from the show Avatar: The Last Airbender. And there are very many unique characters in this series. However, these two are special, so I wanted to talk about them today. And I am no psychiatrist or anything like that, but I did study English Lit in college, so basically I analyzed film and text for 4 years, so I have a little bit of experience. But other than that, like, this is literally just my personal opinion of these two characters from what I've learned from watching the show and knowing similar people IRL. I'd appreciate it if you ignored my roots. I have to re-dye my hair, but I'm starting a new job soon, so I would rather just wait and re-dye it then. There's no point in doing it now whenever I'm home most days. So Zuko and Azula both came from the Fire Nation, from two Fire Nation parents. However, they're very special because their grandfather was basically ran the whole ship of the Fire Nation and started the war, which started this whole ass TV show. Zuko and Azula are both Fire Lord Ozai's children. I'm sure you know that if you've watched the show. Even though they're two siblings, they are two completely different people, and they kind of start off similar in the show, but then they both change. And I wanted to talk about that today because I think it's very cool how they both came from the same parents in the same life, but chose two very different paths. When Zuko and Azula were kids, Azula demonstrated some sadistic behaviors like throwing rocks at turtle ducks. And Zuko learned from his sister and one day showed his mom how Azula feeds the turtle ducks, and he proceeded to throw a rock at the turtle ducks as well. These cute little turtle ducks for no reason. But whenever Azula did it and she saw that they got hurt, she would totally just laugh as a kid. And Zuko's mom, once he showed her how Azula does it in this family, his mom was basically, "What the heck is wrong with you? You shouldn't hurt anything or anyone. Why would you do that?" It's not exactly what she said, but that was the point that she was making. Uncle Iroh literally said to Zuko one time that Azula's crazy. Like, I think he literally had no hope for her and only saw a little bit of hope in Zuko, and proceeded to try to steer him on a more proper path. But I think he saw from a young age that Azula was freaked up. Her mom saw that as well. Azula admitted later on in the TV series that even her own mom thought that she was a monster. She's just been like that from childhood. And I believe Azula is just her own person. She's very, very, very much like her father and does what she wants and doesn't really care who she hurts in the process. Hurting people doesn't really make her feel any guilt or remorse, it doesn't seem like. Zuko, on the other hand, feels a lot of guilt and remorse for pretty much everything. Zuko is an emo mess. I feel like Zuko runs a little bit more on emotions as opposed to logic, and Azula runs a little bit more on logic as opposed to focusing on her emotions and running with that. However, I think that she gets a little too caught up in her emotions towards the end of the series. Obviously, things don't end very well for her. It's easy to think, why would a literal child be so horrible, like an actual monster? But then you kind of realize that's her dad. Her dad is an actual monster. Her dad's a horrible person. And there's no turning back from him. There's no turning back for him. He just is who he is, and I don't think anyone could really convince him otherwise or tell him anything that would make him want to change. He just is the way he is. He is very manipulative, doesn't care about anyone or anything. He just cares about how other people make him look. Zuko basically embarrassed him by speaking out against his war plans, and that made him look bad. So he had to punish Zuko for it and show it. Not just Zuko, but everybody who's boss. So the Fire Lord doesn't care about his own son. It may seem like he cares about Azula, but he doesn't care about Azula either. He only likes Azula a little bit because she makes him look better, and she is basically his slave. He doesn't care actually about them, and he basically sacrificed his wife to become Fire Lord, basically. So that just kind of shows what kind of person he is in a little bit of a nutshell. There's no stopping him. He wants world domination, and Azula is just like him. She chose to follow in his footsteps, but she was very monstrous and sadistic from a young age, and it's hard to think how could an actual child be like that. But if you look at her dad, I mean, the apple doesn't fall from the tree, right? It seemed like Zuko spent a little bit more time with his mother growing up as opposed to his father, and it seemed like Azula just really cared about impressing her father. It seemed like Zuko cared a lot about other people, other people's emotions, his own emotions, and Azula just didn't care about anyone else, not even her brother, not her friends. Whenever, I think it was Ty Lee did a cartwheel whenever she was younger, she figured out how to cartwheel before Azula. So Azula literally pushed her friend Ty Lee down and started laughing. Azula has to be the best, just like her dad, and has to show everybody that she's the best, just like her dad. She has to show everybody that they should be afraid of her and that she is the best. Zuko, I think Zuko literally just wants to prove to his father that he's worthy, which is really sad. Both of these situations are really sad. I think he just wants to show his father that he's worth something because his father doesn't see that he's worth anything, even though he's worth a lot. Zuko is an incredible person, but his father doesn't see that because his father just cares about Zuko and Azula helping him get ahead and helping him look good. However, Zuko's firebending skills whenever he's a child isn't the best compared to Azula, so his father kind of looks down on him, and he gets mad and jealous of Azula, but he doesn't hurt her. He just tries to do better. Azula, anytime she is mad or jealous of somebody, she has to hurt them. She literally has to, almost. I feel like in the beginning, Zuko really runs with his emotions. He doesn't really process his emotions. I feel like both are very impulsive, but I feel like Azula is more impulsive towards the end and Zuko is more impulsive towards the beginning. I feel like the first time Zuko spoke out against his dad, how he got his scar on his face, he heard what his dad said and it bothered him so much he had to speak out about it, and that was a very impulsive decision. What he said was right. What Fire Lord Ozai was doing or planned to do was wrong, but he didn't really think about, the consequences of speaking out against his father or how to necessarily address it properly. He just shouted out what he thought and was like, wow, that plan is horrible. You can't do that. And so his father punished him. However, I feel like Azula is a little bit more strategic. As soon as she hears something, she just kind of sits with it and thinks about how to handle the situation from there. I feel like Zuko is very reactive. I think that Fire Lord Ozai is similar. I think that he is pretty strategic and isn't so impulsive. I think the only times whenever Azula and the Fire Lord in the beginning are impulsive are whenever they feel threatened or just really angry. I feel like they impulsively hurt people and things, but they don't really care. You know what I mean? Zuko often impulsively said hateful comments towards his uncle when his uncle was just trying to help him. But later on, Zuko thinks about these things that he said and he feels embarrassed, shame, guilt. However, Azula never feels those things unless it's about herself, unless she doesn't feel good enough for herself or for her father. Azula always has to be the best. I think that's why she accomplishes so much in such a short amount of time at such a young age. Although things don't end the best for her, she did a lot before the last couple of episodes. She accomplished a lot. And she's an amazing fighter. There's no denying that. She is incredible. She even knows how to use lightning. She's a crazy good fighter and a crazy good bender. However, I think it's just because she felt from a young age that she had to be the best. She had to be the best fighter because that was the only way that she could prove herself worthy to her dad. Azula was basically Fire Lord Ozai's slave, but they kind of used each other, I feel like. I think that she knew in ways that he wasn't good and he was manipulative, but I think she just stuck with him anyways because she wanted to be the next Fire Lord, and she wanted to stay on her dad's good side and be her dad's bestie, so he chose her as the Fire Lord as opposed to Zuko. I think Azula genuinely, she does want to prove herself to her dad and prove that she's worthy, but I think she also wants power and to prove these things to herself. I think Zuko doesn't necessarily want fame and power. I think he just wants to prove himself to his dad and show that he is worthy of something. However, that's Uncle Iroh's whole role in this series, is to show Zuko that he is worthy without his dad's presence. His dad planted in both of these children's minds from a young age that they need to fight, they need to be powerful, that any sort of emotion or empathy, basically, is not good. It's not okay. It won't get you anywhere in life. He instilled these values in their heads from a young age and made them both believe that they had to be powerful firebenders and help him rule basically the whole world, or at least their whole country, their whole nation. Azula and Zuko were raised to believe that their path was chosen by their father, that their path and their destiny in life is to help rule their nation. This thought alone literally destroyed both of these characters. I mean, Zuko spent years trying to prove himself to his dad. Once he got banished from the Fire Nation, he spent years trying to hunt the Avatar because that was the only way his dad would let him back home. I mean, he felt like his destiny was to rule with his father and follow in his father's footsteps. And that just absolutely drove him mad. It drove him to hurt people in the process, hurt himself in the process, and just feel lost and confused the entire time. Considering he did feel lost and confused the entire time, I think there was just something in him that knew what he was doing was wrong. I think Azula never really had that in her, knowing that what she was doing was wrong, or she did and she just completely ignored it. However, her father instilling this destiny in both of them also drove her mad. She felt like she had to be the best. She felt like she had to beat Zuko. She felt like she had to please her dad. I mean, she spent years and years fighting, not having any fun, not being able to socially interact with people because she only wanted to meet this goal. She only wanted to please her dad because she felt like that was her destiny. Her destiny was to be the next Fire Lord because that's what her dad told her from a young age. She never thought about anything else any other way. She never really tapped in to what she wants in life. She just decided that that's what she wanted, or her father decided that for her, and she never questioned it. She just went with it and she did whatever it took to get her there. And she did. She was Fire Lord for a little bit. She got there. However, she lost all her friends in the process. Both Zuko and Azula are not the best at socializing, and we see this whenever Azula goes to the beach party with her friends Tylee and May, and Zuko went as well. She is not good at talking to boys, talking to other people. She's not good at sharing personal stories or being empathetic when other people share their personal stories. She just has a hard time relating to other people. And whenever she finally does talk to a boy and starts to kind of connect with him a little bit at this party, what she really wants comes out so quickly. She's like, yes, we could rule the Fire Nation together. And this guy is totally scared off because he just met her. And that's just a very weird thing for somebody to say, especially when you first meet them. But that's just what's in the back of her head. That's her goals. That's really all she cares about. So she doesn't know how to socialize and talk with other people and really have any fun in the process. She just wants to be the best firebender, basically, and that's it. I mean, she doesn't care about hurting her friends. She just wants to use them. I mean, it's hard to actually call May and Tylee her friends because she just uses them the entire time. I mean, she only uses them to help her get what she wants, and she threatens them, and they're scared of her, and they both end up ditching her in the end because she's not loyal. She's not a loyal friend. She doesn't care what happens to them. She only cares about herself, which is why I think she never really had like a close connection to anybody in the series. And I think that's why her dad was so important to her, because she can't really connect with anyone that's not in the same mindset as her. And the only one that's in the exact same mindset as her is her dad, because her dad raised her to be like basically a mini him. And so that's really all she knows. And so he is the only real person she can connect with. And so she follows in his footsteps and is basically just like him. I mean, she is just as horrible as he is, pretty much. However, Zuko did have trouble socializing with other people, especially initially. Whenever he joined the gang at the end of the series, he had a hard time, even after Aang and Sokka and everybody forgave Zuko for the bad things that he did in the past. He still had moments where he couldn't really connect with them. I remember there was this one scene, it's towards the end of the series, and they're all just kind of hanging out, the whole gang, Toph, Katara, everybody. I'm pretty sure they have all forgiven Zuko at this point, including Katara. And they were doing a little group hug, and Zuko's just kind of standing in the corner isolating himself, because that's just kind of how he was raised to be. He was raised to not really make friends and just care about being powerful. So he doesn't know how to socialize with other people. However, the difference between him and Azula is their paths are different and their hearts are different. He ends up joining in on this group hug, and he ends up becoming friends with all of them because what's in his heart is his path to now help the Avatar. And before, when he was so confused, he felt like his only path was to capture the Avatar and go back home and be the best firebender and be the next Fire Lord potentially. He didn't care about making friends in the process. I don't even think he cared about his uncle here and there, but he didn't care about making friends. Like one time Aang said that he was wondering if they could have been friends at one point, and he just completely ignores it. But you can tell in his heart that he does actually want a friend, and you can tell that he does have a heart and is empathetic towards other people, because there are times throughout the series where he could have went and captured the Avatar while his uncle was hurt, but instead he just wanted to help his uncle. If that was Azula in that situation, she would leave her uncle in a heartbeat and go capture the Avatar. I think Azula wanted to socialize at the party because she felt like it was the normal thing to do, and I'm sure she likes boys and stuff. She's a teenage girl after all. I think she's a teenager. I don't know. Maybe they're 12. Maybe they're not teens yet, but you know what I mean. However, that's really not in her heart. Her heart isn't having, for friends and being empathetic towards people and connecting with people. All that's in her heart is being powerful and proving her worth. Zuko wants to prove his worthiness to his dad initially, but once he finds out that that's not his destiny, it's a lot easier for him to connect with others and have more so a normal life and have friends and support. Whereas Azula, she ends up completely alone because all she cares about really is herself. It almost seemed at the beginning that Zuko was more of the weaker member of the family, just because he wasn't technically as good as a fighter as Azula, and he just seemed kind of lost and emotional. However, him being like that and being on this spiritual path journey, figuring out what's right for him, what's right in his heart, what his true path and destiny is in life, we see that he is the strong one, and he comes out on top because he followed his heart and what he thought was right, and he was good, and good things ended up happening to him, and he actually ended up being the stronger one. He was strong to speak out against his dad at first, even though it caused his scar. He was strong to, once he returned home, strong to leave again, to go help the Avatar, strong to face his father and tell him the truth. He was strong for admitting his faults and his lies before. He was the strong one. The one that crumbled towards the end was actually Azula, even though she may have seemed like the toughest one at first because she was a strong fighter. She didn't have empathy towards anybody else. She ended up being the weak one at the end because her mentality just totally crumbled. I mean, she fought for so long trying to be this powerful figure for herself, for her dad. And once that couldn't happen, she just completely disintegrated because she realized that everything that she worked for, no matter how hard she worked, was almost for nothing. And she was technically the weaker one at the end because she was left with no friends, kind of no family. She totally tried to kill Zuko. I mean, she really was the one that was weak in the end, and that's why Zuko ends up being the Fire Lord, and she's crying in handcuffs, basically. I think that's partially because she never learned how to socialize with other people, have empathy. She only cared about herself. She only cared about what her father thought of her. Her goal was to be the Fire Lord, but I don't think she realized that she needs people along the way. And even whenever she did become the Fire Lord, she still realized that she needed people because she kept banishing everybody, and then all of a sudden there was nobody left in the palace to help her, and she realized that she did need people. Azula never really tapped into herself and explored her own path. She just heard the path that her father wanted for her from a young age and just went with that and ran with that because that's how she thought that she could succeed in life and win in life. Zuko realized the way of succeeding in life and winning in life isn't really about the end goal necessarily. It wasn't really about even being Fire Lord for him. He realized that it was about helping people, listening to his heart, taking care of the ones that he loved, being honest, all those good things. I think that Uncle Iroh steered him on this path because he saw inside that he had a heart and he wanted to help Zuko. I think that if he even tried to help Azula, she probably would take advantage of him somehow because I don't think that she really had a heart to begin with. I think that she basically is a mini version of her dad, and she probably would have turned out like her dad if she was Fire Lord, because whenever Ozai was Fire Lord, he just wouldn't stop until he was the most powerful figure and ran the whole world. I mean, he didn't care about Zuko. He didn't care about his wife. He didn't even care about Azula. And he just did whatever he could to get what he wanted. I believe Azula would have turned out just like him. I don't think that there was any talking down Fire Lord Ozai. I don't think he's a man that could ever actually change. He is evil, and he's just straight up evil. I think some people in this life really are evil, and there's no turning back. I think that whenever you're a child, you can try to give them the right tools to be a good person, like their mom was trying to do. But if they get on the wrong path, which Fire Lord Ozai was on, and they go down that path, they can become really horrible. And I think that's must have what happened to Fire Lord Ozai in the first place. I think he just wanted to follow in his father's footsteps and be a great ruler, be a great Fire Lord. He didn't care about what happened to anyone in the process. He just wanted to succeed, or what he thought people thought was succeeding. A lot of people, I feel like in society in general, think power, money means you're successful, but that's not necessarily the truth. You could be super successful and be a total wreck on the inside. I don't believe that. Fire Lord Ozai was technically successful because he had no love. I mean, he was Fire Lord for a while, but that ended, and he never had any love or good in his heart, and I don't think that could ever be found once it's past a certain point. And I believe that Azula reached that point at some point, and there was no turning her into good. However, Zuko was a little bit closer with his mom. Although he did bad things, he had good inside of his heart, and I think Uncle Iroh saw that, and that's why he was able to change. Anyone's capable of change, I think, but they have to want to. Zuko was so lost and confused and emotional because he wanted to find his path, and he knew in his heart that whenever he was back home and was the perfect prince, like he said, he still wasn't happy. Even though he had everything he possibly could have ever wanted in life, he still wasn't happy, and he went on a quest to figure out why. Azula, she was so consumed with being powerful. In the end, whenever she was Fire Lord for a little bit, she was happy, but not really. I mean, she got what she wanted, but then she just started banishing everybody because that's really the only life she knew, was to push everybody away unless they were downright serving her in the best way that she thought. But she realized that that didn't make her happy, and she realized that, those kind of things don't make you happy. Except I don't think she recognized that. I think at that point, maybe she could have joined Zuko and went down a path like he did, and maybe became friends with the gang, and they could have ruled happily together, and the world could have been at peace. However, I don't think she ever really thought that way. She just wanted what she wanted, and that was that. And I think she did see a problem towards it, like towards the end, when her friends were no longer her friends, and pretty much everyone she ever talked to or was there for her was gone. She realized that she was alone, and she just completely lost it. I mean, she could have turned her life around and have been good like Zuko and experienced good things, but she was just straight evil, and she just wanted to destroy everyone and everything. And that's why her life ended up so sad, because I don't think she ever really thought about her emotions. Zuko at times kind of seems like an emo mess, but at least he processed his emotions and he followed his spiritual path. His life was full of anger and rage and hardships at first, but then it turned to love and happiness and family. Azula, her life at the beginning was also full of rage, anger, and hardships. However, instead of going out of her comfort zone and seeing what else there was in life, she just took those emotions like her father did and ran with it. And considering that was really all that she knew, all that she chose to see, that was all that her life was destruction. Uncle Iroh helped Zuko to follow his good side. Things ended up being good for him. And I think obviously that's a huge lesson between Zuko and Azula, and a huge lesson in the show is basically between good and bad, or good and evil. It's kind of up to you to determine what path you want to go down, but every little thing that you do in between affects that, and it affects your personality and who you are at your core. Sometimes in life, bad people might seem like they're getting away with things, but Do they really feel good inside? It may seem like they do, but they might actually not. And are they really going to end their life happily, full of love and pride in themselves? Or are they going to destroy themselves like Ozai and Azula did? Zuko and Azula both came from the same place. They both had potential to be good or to be bad, to be more kind and gentle like their mom, or to not give a frick about anyone or anything except themselves like their dad. Azula went down her dad's path more so, and Zuko more so went down his mom's path. And I just think both of their personalities are so strong, so incredible. Zuko's my favorite character in the series. Katara's probably my second favorite character. But Azula is definitely up there. Even though Azula is more so bad, her character is so important. The show wouldn't be this show without her character. I think Azula is an incredible character. They both are. I loved both of their stories, but I thought I would just kind of talk about my analysis just because I think it's cool. And I'm obviously an Avatar nerd. Like I said before, I started this channel because I wanted to talk about anime. However, Avatar isn't technically an anime, and I've just randomly posted one video about Avatar, and now I'm having all these Avatar thoughts, so I'm not sure what this channel is actually going to be, but thank you for being here regardless, and I'm excited to make more videos. We'll see if there's going to be more Avatar videos or if we jump into anime and go down that path. I don't know, because I'm not sure what my destiny is. I've got to find out. But in a good way. Okay, thanks for being here. Goodbye.